Madeline, and this is my book report. I read The Evolution of Desire by David M. Buss. So starting off with some background information about the book. As I said, it was written by Dr. David M. Buss, who is the man we talked about early in class when discussing his sexual strategies theory. This book was originally published in 1994 and then was revised in 2003. And it's intended for young adults, college students, and adults that are interested in learning about the origins and strategies of human mating. So just a brief background on the author. He has a PhD in psychology from the University of California, Berkeley, and has been teaching since he graduated. He's currently teaching at the University of Texas, Austin, but has also taught at the University of Michigan, Harvard University, and other schools. He's received many accolades and awards and is considered a leading expert on the evolution of human sexual strategies. He's also the author of many books. He has different areas of interest. His main ones are evolutionary psychology, strategies of human mating, and conflict between the sexes, but he also studies things like stalking, sexual victimization, and murder. So he studies a lot of different topics. But now just some general information on the book. Its main basic points are that human strategies have evolved, human sexual strategies and mating strategies have evolved over our history, and modern humans are still driven and influenced by these strategies. So the strategies that were developed during early human history are still influencing our mating behavior today. This book uses and cites several different studies, including some of David Buss's own research, and also uses over 10,000 participants that range in age and come from 37 different countries around the world. The population, or the participants that are used in the studies, are also representative of the world population. Obviously, they come from 37 different countries, and there were participants from both industrialized countries and developed countries, and also from indigenous populations from around the world. So it's definitely a representative topic. The book covers a wide range of topics regarding human mating and sexual strategies, but the main take-home message is that humans have developed many different strategies for a range of different situations in both long-term and short-term mating. And we're able to adapt to each different situation in order to get what we want out of that situation. And at the most basic evolutionary level, what we generally want and desire out of a mating relationship is offspring and passing on our genes. So one of the most interesting parts of the book was where Dr. Buss discusses the differences in what men and women look for in partners. So starting off with males, it's based on the idea that really all men have to do to reproduce is impregnate a woman. Obviously, there's more to raising a child than just getting a mate pregnant, but at the most basic natural level, all men have to do is impregnate a woman in order to pass on their genes. Men also are in general around the world the controllers of resources and power. So they have a lot of resources to give to partners in return for their motherly qualities and taking care of their children. In the short term, which are relationships that they prefer because it requires less commitment on their part, on the male's part, and also which gives them a chance to have as many partners as possible and pass on and have a higher probability of passing on their genes. But in the short term, they look for signs of reproductive capabilities, including health and attractiveness in women. And attractiveness is extremely important to men because it is an indicator of both health and reproductive capabilities. In the long term, attractiveness is still important when looking for a female partner. It's one of the most important things to men. They also look for motherly qualities. And also, sexual fidelity and faithfulness are very important. Women, on the other hand, are, because they naturally have to invest so much more in child rearing, They're choosier about who they give away their resources, which which in this which in this context is sex. They're choosier about who they give their resources away to. So they, in the short term, which are not the preferred type of relationships, because they want that commitment and want that, and they want the commitment and resource influx that a long-term male partner would be more likely to give. But they do use but women do use short-term relationships when needed, and for example, when in need of an immediate influx of resources. But for the short term, what women look for is consistent with what they look for in a husband or a long-term mate. And so moving on to the next section, in a long-term mate, females look for economic capacity, ambition, work ethic, and social status. Or also, these are all signs that the man is going to be able to provide resources for both the female and the child, and their children. They also look for age. Women typically prefer a man who is slightly older than them. Physical attractiveness is also important, but not as important as it is to men. And they also look for emotional fidelity, because women don't want their male partners to go off spending time and resources on other individual mates. Obviously, these are at the most basic evolutionary sense, and what males and females are looking for in partners, and there's something that, according to Dr. Buss, are things that we look for at a subconscious level. So we're not generally aware of what of these processes happening. But moving on to my critical analysis of the book. Overall, I thought it was a good resource for information on human evolutionary developments and our mating strategies. I thought it was a really good source of that information. One, it's based on science. Dr. Buss references many different studies in the book, and he uses his own research as well. As I said earlier, it's empirical data from over 10,000 participants from 37 different countries, and representative samples are used. It's also consistent with both, obviously, his sexual strategies theory, consistent with the theory of Darwin's theory of evolution, both sexual and natural selection, and consistent with what we've learned in class about sexual strategies. The author is definitely qualified to write give expert information on this topic. As I was explaining earlier in his background, this is what he does. This is what he researches. He's considered to be a leading expert in this field of psychology, human evolution, and human sexuality. However, I did notice some bias throughout the book. Obviously, he's going to be biased towards his own theory, but he does cite criticisms of arguments against his theory, and then he refutes them with his own arguments, and makes arguments against these criticisms, and also offers evidence refuting these arguments. But there was an obvious bias throughout the entire book. But the overall quality, I would definitely recommend it to read. It was really easy and enjoyable to read, and it gave a lot of scientific info in a way that is easy and enjoyable it's easy to understand. It's not just like spewing different data results all over at you. It's written in a way that's easy to understand. It's also an interesting topic and really informative. It did have some weaknesses, though. It could be kind of repetitive in parts and talk about the same basic idea over and over again. Basically, that women are looking for resources in a mate, while men are looking for attractiveness in a mate at the most basic level. While it also gave some criticisms, I felt it could have offered more counter arguments and refuted them to make for a stronger argument on the book's part. And it left open questions as well, such as homosexuals. While it did touch on that for a brief part of the book, and different questions were left open. It obviously didn't cover everything, but overall I would definitely recommend the book to read, and I thought it was a really good source of information. And so I definitely enjoyed it. Thank you.